Well, that was interesting. Um, so I got raped. um, it's back up. So, well, I guess I can't upload that part. Uh, well, I don't know what happened. I guess I just got knocked offline or something. I think I hit a button. I literally have no clue as to what just happened. All right, so um, God, I don't even know how to bring this back now. So look, all right, so this is going to be the YouTube video, obviously, here, because I want to do it in one piece, and I'm not going to cut this shit together. So at the beginning, I covered UMG, essentially that if we sell it, the pass is quick enough, that UMG is going to expand their bracket, they're going to expand the fuck out of the bracket, and they're going to make it more prize money. It's going to be better for everyone. Now, fast forwarding here, Game of Sutra sat down with the people of 343. And the title of the article is We Hired People Who Hated Halo. Direct quote. Uh, so how it works is so when I scroll down, 343 didn't even have a studio to work in when making this game. So yes, they had to overcome a lot of stuff. They really did. They had to overcome, not having a studio, which is a big fucking deal, right? But regardless, they did this. And I quote Frank O'Connor, "We had people who we hired who hated Halo because of X," says O'Connor. But what that really meant was, I feel like this game could be awesome because of Y input. Blah, blah, blah. Now, the big thing here is that 343 has such an identity crisis. And the fact that they would even hire anyone who's not even familiar with past games is just baffling to me. I mean, when you take a look at League of Legends, you know what you see in League of Legends? You can't get hired at Riot Studios unless you are a level 30 in their game, which is fucking awesome. Because you know why? Then they have an idea of the casual scene. They have an idea of what people like. They have an idea of what it's like to get to level 30. And level 30 is just like, the tip of the iceberg, right? Then you have the whole ranked playlist ahead of you. It's this wonderful journey through depression and breaking keyboards and buying champions and then, depression again and not leaving your house. That's their rank system. It's a cruel bitch. But dude, they don't have to worry about anything, right? Like the guys of League of Legends don't have to worry about, title update 8 coming out, and all of a sudden they're playing 2v2s on Twisted Tree Line, which is essentially what this game is compared to, like, Halo 2 or Halo 1. Like, this game is completely different, man. We have ordnance drops, we have starting armor abilities, we have sprint in the fucking game. Like I can overlook everything, man. Like, I really can, and when I think about it, like, I care about the competitive scene, and I care about pushing good content out there that's like, oh, yeah, we got this. But when, I see that they hire people from like Gran Turismo or whatever Kevin Franklin's from. What the fuck is he bringing to the table besides a spreadsheet, man? Like, oh yeah, my game, I worked on this and I sold 1 million copies. Dude, it's not how it works. Like Quinn, thank God we have Quinn, right? Like Quinn did something with Gears of War 3. Now, I know a lot of people say like Gears of War 3 wasn't as good as Gears of War 2, like title update 3 or whatever the hell. But regardless, like the game worked. It worked at a competitive scene. They had better numbers than they've ever had in their entire life in the Gears of War history, back when I used to cast for it. So it was a success for the little bit of time that was playing. Sure, it wasn't picked up by MLG. Sure, it didn't have the longest lifespan, but you know what? It had success at Hypefestation. But what I don't get is that, like, I'm just sitting here. I'm so frustrated, man. Like, I don't understand why 343 does this. Like, I just don't get it. Like, you have a working formula. You really do. And I really think what happens is you get a lot of these people who, they have, they got their, degree in game developing, and they're like, oh yeah, I've played your campaign, let's bring me onto the multiplayer team. And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way, man. You got to bring people in who actually know what the hell they're talking about. I'm not saying me, right? I'm really not. Like, I don't even want to say Ghost Army at this point because of the 5 loadouts in V4. But you bring people in who are actually going to put in good input. They're not just going to be a yes man. They're not going to be like, you're not going to show them something and then they're not going to show you like, oh, hey, look, we're going to use a jetpack as a starting armor ability, right? And every hardcore Halo player is like, what the hell? But you know what? when you're presented with that scenario in person and they're like going out of their way to talk to you, you're gonna fucking freeze and you're gonna be like, yeah, I like it. I think it adds this. Like I remember Shockwave, Elamite, Warrior, and a couple, I think like Hysteria, and a couple other dudes went out to play Halo Reach before it came out. And the direct quote what was either from Elamite, it was like a direct quote from like everyone, like as a general consensus, right? And they said, "We think Bloom is very skillful." Like it's just it's the nature of the beast. You can't have pussies talking to developers and not speaking their mind. It's not gonna work. And I'm not saying Elamite and Shockwave are pussies. I love both of them to death. I've been through a lot with both of them, and I've beat Elamite Warrior so many times, and he's beaten me so many times. So I don't want to say I don't want to degrade them, but I don't think they're the best people to go out there to speak their mind about something that's so imperative to the community. And I think it takes a certain individual to be able to do that. And I think there's people in our community who can do that, and I think there's people who can't. And I think they've literally contacted everyone who can. Period. That's just my personal take on it. But it does suck, right? Like they always, if you ever talk to a developer, they always phrase it in ways that they're like, oh well, do you think it can work? And you're like, and you don't want to just be like a blunt asshole because they're like going out of their way to talk to you, right? You're like, well, I guess like hypothetically, man. You know what I mean? Like that's all you can do because you know what? You don't want to like just burn that bridge right away. But the thing is, it's like it's the way they host questions to you, and two, it's just you don't want to burn bridges with someone who is of that prestige level. But you know what? It's done with. I can't do it anymore. I can't. I'm so like this was like the icing on the cake. Like I knew I had it in my head when I sat down with Kevin Franklin at Anaheim 2012 after E3. I was sitting there explaining to him with I was sitting there explaining to him with like, well, these would be beer bottles, but I was sitting there explaining to him like everything with glasses, how spawns worked in Halo 1 and how they worked in Halo 2. And when I was talking about how on like perfect example, easy example here. Nothing crazy. Nothing crazy. Everyone knows this if they've played Halo in the past. I explained to him how when you sit on Hang 'em High at the bottom of the camo ramp, so you have camo, you have the ramp going down, this is the ramp, right at the bottom of my elbow, this was a spawn right here at my elbow. When you sit there and crouch, or when you sit there and stand, it doesn't matter, you give your teammate a random spawn. He does not necessarily spawn next to you in back blue corner, he doesn't spawn red pistol, he doesn't spawn blue shotty, he can spawn anywhere on the fucking map. And he looked at me and he goes, no, that's not possible. And I was like, oh my God. And so then I tried another one, right? He didn't understand the fact that he thought that just by sitting on a spawn wouldn't give your teammate a random. And I said it's on certain spots, and okay, whatever. And then so I gave him the red Hang 'em High, right? So red base on Hang 'em High, all you had to do is you have the tower right here, and you have the first ramp, and it goes up, and then it goes here, and then you're at the top of the base, right? So the first ramp right here, so walls behind you, and you have that pillar here. You just have to walk out right here. So you're just kind of walked out a little bit. You're exposing yourself, but you don't want to be at red base anyways, kind of thing, right? So you're exposing yourself, and then by standing right there, teammate will not spawn at red. Not necessarily. He can spawn back red tombs, he can spawn underneath blue magnum, he can spawn top blue pistol, he can spawn blue base, he can spawn camo. It's a random spawn. Still didn't get that, okay? So then I was talking to him about how to force spawns, right, in Halo 1. Even though random spawns was just completely out of the equation, fuck it, dude, Scott, you're delusional, you're just a kid, right? You don't know anything about game developing, whatever. Then I was talking to him about forcing spawns, and everyone here knows how to force spawns in Halo 1, and if you don't, it's whatever, I don't care, but we'll just stay on Hang 'em High for the fact of the matter that it's Hang 'em High. Now, although there's random spawns, there is forced spawns. Now, it's a good thing, and it also can fuck you. If you don't know if you're playing like 2v2s or 4v4s with your team, and you're playing like a pussy, your team's going to get destroyed, right? Like, you have to position yourself very, very well in Halo 1 in order to get your team out of the scenario. It ended up being like, it's a big thing about awareness, and it's also a big thing about being selfless. Even in, like, I know, like, no one really knows Halo 1 for, like, team shot, right? But you had to be selfless at all times. And there's times where, it's like, you have to expose yourself. You have to be willing to die for the better of your team, just because, it gets you out of red base, okay? So, let's just go ahead and take Hang 'em High. So, you have top blue pistol, okay? You have blue pistol up here. It actually works with this, okay? So underneath, there's a spawn right here in red tombs, okay? Right here in red tombs, there's a spawn. Now, when you spawn right there, bottom blue pistol, or red tombs, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. When you spawn right there, if you stay put, and you block that spawn, your teammates spawn above you on blue pistol. Now that's huge, because red tombs, even in 2v2s and 4v4s, it's just a shit fuck spawn. You do not want to spawn there. Like, sure, there's times where it could be beneficial, blah, 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 and they're not paying attention to bottom middle, and you can run bottom middle and kill someone. But you spawn that guy top blue pistol, and they have blue base control, or if they're at red base, he's going to destroy. I mean, assuming he doesn't choke and shit the bed, but he's going to destroy them, right? So I try to shoot that to him, and he swears he understands, man. Swears he understands, and then there's nothing even, like, remotely close to that. Like, these are the things that we need in a fucking game to make it intricate. These are the things that we need in the game to actually make it good. If you could force spawns, like, dude, you know how amazing that would be? That makes the skill gap. It's not all about shot anymore, dude. Like, it's really, like, shot, yeah, sure, is going to matter. But you know what? Dude, you're going to play online, and even on the shittiest connection, you'll be able to force spawns. Imagine on Haven, right? There's a spawn bottom blue, okay? Right at the bottom of the ramp. And by standing right on that spawn and, like, jumping and meleeing or just jumping or crouching, whatever you want to do, imagine by jumping or you're just sitting right on that spawn, that he spawned top blue, okay? Think about how many instances there would be where you would actually use that. They're going for extraction, right? They're arming at blue side, you guys spawn bottom blue. Your teammate has 2 seconds to spawn, you spawn. You don't move. You don't move. You just sit there. Fucking gun in hand, you just sit there. His teammate spawns top blue, throws a nade, kills the extraction. Done. Period. Like, that's a perfect fucking play. That's what you saw in Halo 1. You don't see that anymore. It's completely gone. Okay? Let's take, well, I can't use Abandon. Abandon's out of the equation. Skyline, okay? Let's say there's just one random spawn on each side of the map. Just a random spawn, right? Team Slayer. Let's say it's bottom middle on the pillars. You spawn there, and you don't want your team to spawn red base, right? So you sit on the spawn, and because, like, they have top middle control, right? And you guys are just getting destroyed. You sit on the spawn bottom pillars where you spawn. One guy spawns top needler, whatever. So that that's a random right there, right? Like, he'll spawn, like, red needle as your, like, belt side or DMR side. Cool. Now he's not going to get screwed by spawning down low. He's not going to spawn at the flag. He's not going to spawn at the ramp. It's so simple to me, because you know what, that makes it a lot more interesting, right? Like, that gives a strategy to develop. That gives a strategy to talk about. But instead, you know what we have? We have sprint and armor abilities. Like, I'm fine with sprint, because sprint's fine in this game. Like, I really am. Like, it makes this game okay. But what I'm not fine with is just, like, how I just don't get I just don't get everything, man. I don't. Like, spawns are very, very simple to talk about. Like, when you force spawns, it's good and it's bad, right? So let's talk about the negative side of spawn influence, right? Now, I know Linus, so basically in this game, well, in the most recent Halos, like from Halo 3, Halo Reach, in this game, Linus, so basically picture every spawn point as like a bubble, okay? And it's at like, each spawn point's like a bubble, okay? When you look at past Halos, it was like, if you looked at the spawn, like, if your reticle's on the spawn, it was like a -3 influence. So if there was, so that's a 2 influence that you could spawn. There's a 2%, or there's like 2 points that says you could spawn on that point, right? Okay. So it's not very likely. Now, if you died on that spot, 5 points gone. There's no way you can spawn on that point, right? Unless your teammates all die on the other side of the map, and in which case you may spawn there, but you won't get the same exact spawn again. So that's how this game works. So if you throw a grenade, it's like negative 3 points on the bubble. Very unlikely that you'll ever spawn on a grenade. Very unlikely you'll ever spawn in the aimer of a sniper. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to Halo 1's spawning system, right? Let's say we'll stick on Hang 'em High just to make it easier, and then we'll probably go to we'll go to Prisoner, okay, from this. Okay, so look. So on Hang 'em High, right, everyone knows Blue Base was dominant. Everyone knows that, okay? Let's say I'm playing with Saucy, okay, and we're playing Best Man and Maven, okay? One, we would destroy them. But number two, let's say I don't know the random spawn at red base, and let's say that I'm afraid to push out and just die because I don't know that red base is worse. Like, I think that I just want to live. I care about my stats, like blah, 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 blah. Okay, so the random spawn is neglected. What I'm going to do, normal players, you saw this all the time, I would go top red, all right? I go off to top red base, and I would try to pick someone off top blue. Or shoot the guy going for rockets and try to pick him off. Now, what happens is that I get comfortable top red. So when I'm stuck top red, right here, all right, my teammate's going to spawn right here, on the bottom, on the floor, out in the open. Now, if I'm hiding and I get sniped in the body because the guy naded sniper to him, I'm not going to do anything. If my teammate's going to spawn, he's going to get destroyed. And if I don't move, which I won't, you know, he's going to keep spawning there and spawning there. He will spawn there 50 times in a row. Either bottom red or back red at the bottom of the ramp. 50 times just because I'm playing dumb. That's a big deal, man, because then positioning is also awarded again. But, you know, whatever. Screw spawns. It's not important. Now, Prisoner was much worse. Prisoner was like you lived and died by the spawn trap, okay? So Prisoner, there was a lot of ramps. There was, I can't even remember how many random spawns there were on the map, but forcing spawns was a big thing, okay? But now forcing spawns became so obvious that it was like you couldn't force spawns. Like, that's how it evolves. Like, you know when people are forcing spawns. So the perfect instance of this on Prisoner is, so there was a spawn bottom red. So you had 3 levels of red. You had the bottom red, which had a ladder that ran up to red 2. Then you had to go up, over shield, up, and then go across like a little bridge. And then you're at red 3. So when you set bottom red at the spawns and the ladders to your right, okay, ladders to your right, you sitting on the spawn, your teammate would spawn red 3. Now, the reason this is huge is because the overshield's up there. Now, getting the overshield in Prisoner was like a big deal. Like, you destroyed people with it, especially if you were on host box. You kind of just cut them down. Now, if the other team's holding top and you spawn them up and they're not expecting it, he gets a kill. You guys stop overshield. He dies again. You have 3 seconds. You spawn him up there, and then you run for camo, okay? But it got to the point, like, towards the end, once everyone knew that, like, that was apparent, they would just nade bottom red, right? They would see a guy go bottom red, and then what happens is you live and die by the spawn force, right? So even though they see that he's bottom mid, or bottom red, they know he's either going to spawn red 3 on one side, bottom sniper, or red 3 on the other side. All they did was this. Waited for it, 3. Or throw a grenade, throw 2 grenades, kill him, dead. And if the teammate was dumb enough, he would stay bottom red and try to force it. And he would spawn there 50 times in a row until the guy moved. That's consistency. There's no randomness in forcing spawns. Like, this is what has to be in a game. At least a first-person shooter, to make it a little more dynamic, right? Like, when you watch League of Legends, when you watch StarCraft 2, like, there's a lot of strategy that goes involved into it, right? Like, Halo is like a 3, especially these Halos, or this Halo rather. This game's like a 3 on the whole strategy side of things. I'm just frustrated, man. Like, I can't believe the article. Like, why would you hire people who... And I understand, like, the article isn't, like, a direct... It's not saying they just, like, only hired people who... They hired people who just hated certain things about the game, which I understand because you want to get it better, but, like, why don't you hire people who actually have a background with your game? Hire people who, you know, have played Halo 1, have played Halo 2, have played Halo 3, and don't hire the people who, you know, only played campaign to do the multiplayer. Don't hire people who, come from racing games to do the multiplayer. Hire people with a background in first-person shooters, like Quindel Hoyle. Perfect addition, man. Perfect addition. He's doing a lot. He's got the weapon tuning going for us. He's reaching out to the community. He gives them a little bit of faith. But it's just like, I don't understand, man. It's just super frustrating, man. It really is. And I understand, like, everyone wants to take a model of, like, a different game and all this stuff, but you got to look at the games that are most successful. And the games that are most successful right now, there's three. There's three games that are most successful. Yeah, League of Legends dwarfing everyone on the face of this planet. It is casual. It is free to play. But the thing is it's even though it's free to play, everyone buys skins. Like, I've dropped $60 on that game, no questions asked, which is basically Halo, right? Like, I've paid for Halo on a free to play game. That's like the first appeal. It's like, oh well, it's free to play, and then it's like, oh, by the way, you get paid by Riot if you're a pro player in your region. Just without a sponsor, you get paid by Riot just to be a pro player. Amazing. Like, about like, when I first started up playing League, like, it was 3 years ago, or 2 years ago. Like, it was just starting out, right? The competitive scene. Like, I remember it got picked up by MLG for a tournament. They had, like, 100,000 concurrent instantly. Like, just right off the break. Just sitting there. And that's when Call of Duty and League of Legends shared the stream. Like, they had success because, you know what, they pushed it onto people. They pushed the competitive scene onto people. They didn't just say, oh, well, here's ARAM, go play. No, man, what they did was they pushed the competitive scene on people. Yeah, sure, it's a different model and you can't really base it towards Halo, but you can take kind of what they did because, you know what, StarCraft 2 did it. StarCraft 2 pushes the competitive scene on people. Although, there is the casual scene, and that's, like, one of the big complaints that I've seen from the casual gamer of StarCraft 2 is that, like, StarCraft 1, you could do so many things. There's so many casual things, but StarCraft 2, it's like you can just play, competitive. Let's say, look at Call of Duty Black Ops 2, okay? Let's just look at it. When they started off with League play, there was, like, 400, I think it was like 800 people could play League play at a time. But you know what they did? They force-fed everyone League play. They said, you know what? You have to be competitive in this game because you can win this amount of money because that's what we're throwing, right? And money, of course, is going to attract people to watch. It doesn't matter. We could have watched Pokemon Snap for $1 million and people would have tuned in. But I'm not trying to take anything away from COD because, dude, they're good. They have everything right now. Sure, I think the kill streaks are a little cheesy, but whatever. They have done it right. But they have force-fed their community of people, of millions still currently playing the game, the competitive scene. And now I think League plays up to like 3,000, 4,000. Holy shit. 4,000 people, that's what? 10%, if not more, of the normal population on Halo 4? Well, I think we average like 38,000, 40,000 tops. Like, you can't try to keep reinventing the wheel. You can't do it, man. Like, competitive scene in gaming is going to be the future. Because it is the future. There's nothing cooler than being a professional gamer. There's nothing cooler than being a competitive gamer. There's nothing better than winning money from gaming. It's the best. And that's why it's so appealing to people, because everyone can do it. You're not limited by your size. You're not limited by your genetics. You're not limited because you can't afford training. You're not limited because you can't make it to practice. There's none of that. There's none of that. Sure, you have to have an internet connection, and sure, you have to get a console, and, all this bullshit, but it doesn't matter. You'll find a way if you really want it, right? Period. Like, that's the thing. That's the best thing about gaming in the world, is that I can be a 5'2" white guy, just awful at sports, and if I'm a 5'2" white guy and my ambition is to make it to the NBA, I have a 0.1% chance tops of making it in there. In fact, I would say I have a 0% chance. If I'm 5'2" and I'm a white guy, any race actually, if you're 5'2", you're not making it in the NBA. Period. That's that. You're gonna get demolished by people. You can juke them. They can just sit there like this, right? Like, you're screwed. Your dream's out the window. You have no hope. The same guy wants to be pro in a video game. He can do it. If he puts his mind to it and he actually works his ass off and he learns the way he's supposed to, he can do it. That's the best thing about a gaming, man. It's the competitive scene. Sure, casuals are awesome, but you know what, man? There's coming to a point where the competitive scene's just gonna be bigger than everything else, and I'm gonna come back to this video and I'm gonna laugh. I'm gonna say, you know what? I just wish 343 would have listened to me. And I understand that, like, oh yeah, sure, the competitive scene's not that big right now. Well, you know what? Nothing's big in this game, at all. I mean, your audience is 38,000 people, man. Like, you started off at 400,000. You tried to stay more towards the casuals, and it backfired. Like, it's not there. You can still have the core gameplay if it's competitive for people to play. You can make it casual, dude. Like Halo 1, most competitive title, casual. Halo 2, super competitive title, casual. Halo 3, probably the most successful one, even though it wasn't my favorite. Most competitive title, done, right? Like, even with, like, the energy depletion in it and the regrowth energy field, or whatever the hell those shits were called, it was still more competitive, right? Like, it was still, you know what I mean? Like, it was still there. It was beautiful. It was a great time, right? Like, we had it all. And I think that it's just time that, you got to get people in there who have played all 4 Halos. You know what, dude? I would be willing. I would be willing to donate like $500 to like three. I don't even have $500 right now that I could just throw away. I would be willing to donate them $300 just to reach out to grab someone from the Halo 1 game or Halo 2. Just reach out, grab someone, grab that net, and catch that beautiful butterfly. Just grab them. Just bring them in there and say, what did you do for this game? Make that happen in this game. We don't want all this failing shit anymore. We want something good. That's that. That's all I'm going to talk about. I'm frustrated. Thank you all for watching.